Well, I think we will go ahead and get started. Um, Welcome to another NNCI webinar. My name is David Gottfried. I'm the director of the National Nanotechnology Coordinated Infrastructure. And welcome to our semi-monthly webinar series. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Matt Hull in a minute, but just to remind you, you can find future events, both virtual, in-person, and hybrid on the NNCI events page. You can also view past webinars on our YouTube channel, and you can find that just by Googling YouTube and NNCI, and we're usually the first link that pops up. And lastly, if you have any questions for our speakers, just put them into the Q&A, and we'll address those when we get to the end of the webinar. And with that, I will pass it off to Matt Hull.
Thanks, David. So I am Matt Hull. I'm at Virginia Tech. I'm the Associate Director for Innovation and Entrepreneurship for the NNCI. And it's my pleasure today to introduce you to a group of speakers who I have taken an interest in due to their focus on engaging with diverse and underrepresented groups in entrepreneurship and other activities. And this is a challenge that we run into with some of the programming that we offer across the NNCI. We would like to engage more with diverse student populations, and sometimes it can be a challenge for us to find the opportunities to engage with them. So we're looking forward to learning more about that today. So I'm pleased to be joined today by Jacques Chirazi, who's Director of Student and Entrepreneurship and the Basement at the Blackstone LaunchPad camp and the Blackstone LaunchPad Campus Director at UC San Diego. Also, Christine Liou, who's Assistant Director of the Basement at UC San Diego, and Yves Theriault, who's Program Manager for Education Outreach at the Qualcomm Institute at UC San Diego, and also SDNI Executive Director of Education Outreach. And I think we'll kick things off first with Yves, who will give us a little bit of a background on the innovation ecosystem at UC San Diego.
Thank you, Matt. So we're very happy to be here today to talk about what we do at UCSD. I'd like to start by saying that UCSD has a very strong history of fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. In 1995, we had UCSD Connect founded, and it assisted actually the formation and development of about 3,000 companies. It was a major catalyst in the establishment of the biotech hotbed that we have in San Diego, with 470 billion in business generation and supporting 1 million jobs last year. In 2001, UCSD School of Management was founded and renamed later as the Reddy School of Management in 2004. It is actually ranked, number 2 best business school for entrepreneurship, according to Bloomberg Businessweek MBA rankings 2023-2024. It is the Reddy School of Management is the home of the Sullivan Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, where they support students, alumni, research faculty from concept to realization. Another component is the Institute for Global Entrepreneurs. It has several programs to include the well-known program in SFI Corp that you're very well aware of, Matt. We do that a little bit with Intech. And the Institute for Global Entrepreneurship is in the Antonio Franklin Hall, just across from my department, the Qualcomm Institute. So in addition to being the home of the nanofabrication characterization facility, Nano 3 at the Qualcomm Institute, the QI is a multidisciplinary research environment as well, and is aspiring to become a center of excellence in convergence education. We participated in the NNCI NTech competition in 2022-2023 very successfully, as you know, Matt, and we are actually mentoring 2 more teams this year. I'm very glad to, it's such a nice thing to work with very brilliant, young entrepreneur, very energetics who are basically the future of America. Also, our REU, Research Education for Undergrads, as part of the SDNI program in NCI, we invite every summer 5 to 6 entrepreneurs who have been successful in starting up nanotechnology companies. So they talk about their journey. It's a nice interactive sessions with the students and the entrepreneurs, and it's open to the entire NNCI network. So what I like on the UCSD ecosystem right now on the campus is that developing an innovation mindset and also explore the possibility of entrepreneurship can be part of every student's education nowadays. It is also a very diverse population. UCSD is certainly a champion for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And finally, our last component I would like to mention is the design and innovation building that was actually built thanks to the chancellor, our chancellor, Pradeep Khosala's vision. And it includes several components: the basement, makerspace, design lab, and entrepreneurship center. I won't go through all of this. Yeah, maybe ask Jacques and Christine. What I like very much over there is that it's a very open space, and it actually converges, the entire campus. We have also here at UCSD a very connected innovation and commercialization office. They don't just wait for people to contact them. They are very proactive at developing innovation education. And last week we had actually, at the Design Innovation Building, we had an innovation at the Edge speaker series, and we had Ryan Somerville, a general partner at Tentler VC. That was very interesting. So, imagine this, this is the environment we're in. I just had a meeting with my director at QI, went to the, SME building, material science, attended, basically a section where we were discussing AI application to material science. And then I walked 1 minute from there when I was done, and I was at the, Design and Innovation Building, had a little espresso with the beautiful coffee shop that is there in the sun, brainstorming about what we could do. And then I went to the building and attended this fantastic presentation by this VC. And we had all these students with ideas. That was very enriching. Having said that, the first floor of the Design and Innovation Building is the home of the basement. And today we have the pleasure to have Jacques, Chirazi, and Christine Liou, director and assistant director, respectively, of the basement, who will talk about what they do over there, the fantastic thing that they do over there. So without further ado, Jacques and Christine, please take it over.
All right, great. Thank you so much for setting the stage. So welcome, everyone. So today we'll be talking about how to engage diverse students in entrepreneurship. I know we did our welcomes earlier, but my name once again is Christine Liou, pronouns she, her, hers. I am the assistant director of the basement. I'll turn it over to my colleague.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you for inviting us to this webinar. We're excited to be here and share our story. So my name is Jacques Chirazi. I'm a director of student entrepreneurship in the basement.
All right, so we're going to start us off by just showing you some examples of some inclusive entrepreneurial events that we have successfully hosted here at the basement. So we want to give you all the mindset that every university setting is different, every student population or every just target audience is going to be a little bit different, but this is hopefully an opportunity for you to think of creative ideas where you can encourage more inclusive entrepreneurship with their respective populations. So the first one I want to share is an ideation workshop or ideation weekend. This is something we did an academic year ago. So the purpose of this was to create a one-time event earlier on in the quarter where students are still really eager about being on a college campus. They haven't been inundated with midterms or other exams yet, and really just to create a casual environment for students just to pitch their ideas and kind of think of entrepreneurship in a more relaxing, collaborative setting. So the goal for us was to create this opportunity to get students together, think about their ideas, and to think about applying for our actual programs. So we did this earlier in the quarter. And then this was also a good opportunity for students to meet other students who are also interested in entrepreneurship to help grow that community of like-minded students and also give them a taste of what it's like to connect with mentors. We have a very extensive network of mentors who are both folks from the industry, they're alums, they're just folks who want to help out young entrepreneurs. The impact of this that we've experienced was that we had students who participated in the weekend. They ended up applying and participating in the Blackstone LaunchPad program. And we did this last academic year, and we actually have a startup that started initially at this weekend event and now have products that they are selling out in the community. So it's really great just to kind of see their growth and transition through the entrepreneurial journey here. Another event we did, this was a new event we did for this academic year. We also did it in the fall quarter. It was called Triton Tank. This is our spin on Shark Tank. Jack and our student worker, Kendrick, built this amazing actual wooden elevator prop where they manually open the elevators 20 plus times as we had 20 students pitch their ideas. So they walk through the elevator, they pitch their idea in 90 seconds, and then they get reviewed by a panel of judges. And this was another opportunity to put the fun back in entrepreneurship. We want students just to be out there, kind of test their own comfort levels, present their idea, and kind of get feedback from their peers, from mentors, from other folks in the audience. And this is our way to bring the actual basement and what we do here in the Design and Innovation Building into campus. UC San Diego is a very large campus, so we want to break down those barriers, kind of meet students where they're at. And this is also from our end an opportunity to create a pipeline between those who are interested in applying for the programs. They can kind of test their idea, tweak it in time to apply for our Blackstone LaunchPad program. This is also another opportunity for us to market all the other opportunities available at the basement as well, since we had a captive audience. And the impact of this, we had over 60 students attend and 25 of those actually pitch. And then for this fall application cycle, we received a record number of 71 applicants. Many of them came and pitched at Triton Tank. So we definitely could see that having an opportunity for students to kind of test out their idea help them to feel more confident in their application process as well. We also host a startup recruitment fair. This is a long reoccurring event that we've hosted since, I want to say since 2017 or 2018. We took a break during the pandemic and we did virtual versions, but we brought back our first in-person basement startup recruitment fair last academic year. And the recruitment fair, the goal of it is to let current students who have a startup recruit other students to join their teams. So we often hear student founders will say that, you know, we are lacking XYZ talent, but we also hear from students saying, I have all these skills, but I don't have an idea. How do I join the basement? The recruitment fair is a way that kind of bridges that gap. It gets folks together, they learn about the opportunities and a little bit more about the student startups that exist. And then also it's an opportunity for students who have specific skill sets, who don't have their own idea, to work with other students in that experience and get just real hands-on learning. UC San Diego is a very theory-based school, so it's a good opportunity to get hands-on practice for the skills and tools they learn in the classroom setting. So for the impact, the recruitment fair has typically been a pretty high impact event. Last year, when we brought it back in person, we had over 350 students attend. This year, we did it in January. We had about 300 students as well. So it's definitely a lot of good foot traffic. And it kind of also breaks down that barrier and lets folks know that the basement and just entrepreneurship in general is really an opportunity for multiple talent sets and multiple folks from different with different skill sets, not just ones in which are typically the ones that are expected. In our marketing, we also list out what types of opportunities are available. So it's not just engineering or whatever specific skill set you might think of. It really has a wide range because we all know that in order to succeed, you need folks from different schools of thought and different skill sets. Another event, this is a newer event that we brought on this academic year called Founder Fireside. Here at UC San Diego, we have a very strong network of UCSD alumni founders, and we also have great local partners as well. So the Founder Fireside is an opportunity to connect students and just the community with other founders that have come from the university or are in the local San Diego area. In the fall, we did one called Innovating in the Arts, where we had various, that one was all in a full alumni-based panel. They were founders of a local flower shop, a music school. We had videographers, and then we also have a marine scientist who's also a photographer talk about their entrepreneurial journey. The intention of the Founder Fireside is to break down this idea that an entrepreneur is only within a certain subset or may look a certain way or go through or come from a specific background. It's showing that all these founders, regardless of what industry they are, they all have a very similar entrepreneurial journey. They all face very similar challenges, similar hurdles, and just a good opportunity just for students, other folks to hear about these stories and just to also connect with other folks to learn about what their entrepreneurial journey has been like. In the spring, we're offering a panel featuring women in the food and beverage industry. We have one UCSD alum founder and also 2 other founders, local business partners that have connections with the university campus. They're talking about how they create their business in the food and beverage industry that we're really excited about. So the first panel we did in the fall, it was a really good opportunity for students to have really intimate conversations with the panelists. And it really just opened the eyes to our attendees to realize that even though they might be working in the tech sector, that these entrepreneurs in the arts also face really similar hurdles that is relatable to them as well. And then we also have other events. Our common goal is to ensure that students across campus know that the basement is available to all students. So by doing more social events that kind of break down the barriers to entry, it creates a more welcoming environment that encourages students to step into our physical space, to experience the basement, and then learn more about ways in which they can get involved. Some past examples we've done is Gratitude Month. So for the month of November, we celebrate what we call Gratitude Month. So it's a series of ongoing events such as de-stressing arts and crafts. We do some giveaways, opportunities to add to a gratitude tree. It's just to make the space more human, more community-centric. You'll see a common theme with all our events. It's bringing people together. Once again, we're a really large campus. We want the basement to be an inclusive space for all students. So this is some of the ways in which we do that. We also did a new event called Blooms of Kindness. We partnered with a local flower studio where students can make 2 floral arrangements. They would make one for themselves and make another floral arrangement for the custodial staff that helps service the design and innovation building as a way to show their gratitude for the work they do here. It was a huge success. We had only over 50 folks come by. Within 20 minutes, we're all done with flowers. And it really just helps bring awareness to the fact that we not only have to foster our own community, but also the larger community as well. And some upcoming offerings we plan on doing next academic year are site visits, so taking students to local businesses and startups in the San Diego area. So once again, bridging that gap between campus and the rest of the community, and also just letting students feel more inspired that there's startups all around us that they can also engage with as well. And then also movie nights, so showing entrepreneurial themed movies with a discussion afterwards, just to get the wheels turning and just thinking in that entrepreneur mindset. So those are all our events. I'm going to turn over to Jack to talk more about inclusive entrepreneurial programs.
Thank you, Christine. So we'll take you to some programs that we offer. And one thing I want to just maybe clarify to start with. So as Yves said, the campus, UCSD has a wealth of resources for entrepreneurs, whether it's around starting a business or even just starting with an adjacent process and going all the way to potentially a product launch. So a home department, the Office of Innovation and Commercialization, offers a number of programs. The department itself is kind of focused on 2 parts. One is the tech transfer, so helping any research that is coming out of any labs on campus to potentially commercialize their ideas or license the technology. And the other group that we fall in, it's all about supporting student, researcher, faculty, and staff in their own journey as they try to start a company or potentially continue a journey to grow an existing application that they've discovered in the lab into the next phase. So the basement really comes into as this space that is available to all students on campus. We're agnostic. We accept all kinds of ideas, and we offer different programs to help them in that search of engagement around innovation, design, and entrepreneurship. So this first program that I want to discuss is what we call a platform program called Innovating for X, or I4X. And here the purpose is a little different than what you see typically in an incubator program, which I'll mention in a bit. This program is really all about bringing students from different backgrounds, not only from an academic research background, but also even from different areas of interest on campus. So the idea here is to have them focus and work on real-world challenges across different industries. We focus on 3 segments, or 4, should I say. One is industry, society, government, and we have a focus on national security. here, what we're doing in this context is we're giving the student a challenge that come from one of our partners, and they have time in a structured process over 2 quarters or 1 quarter. They have to try to solve that challenge. What we're doing here is really focusing on workforce development. We're trying to have them apply what they learn in the classroom into a real environment, a real application, which is something that is very engaging for the students and very rewarding. We also give the student a chance to really master some of those interpersonal skill sets that they would normally not get exposed in the classroom often. Things like storytelling, leadership, communications, project management, and so on. So we provide that as a goal. We also provide an exposure to the foundations of entrepreneurship. So as people go through a program, they also are taking an existing class that we offer called the Essentials of Entrepreneurship and Innovation that is taught by one of our colleagues. And in that context, they're learning their entrepreneurial skill set in applying to this real world problem. They also learn how to lead a team, but also engage with the community partners. This is something that is most likely one of the benefits from this program is students walk away not only taking on a challenge that they're interested in, working with folks that they're normally not directly interacting. So we purposely mix teams from different backgrounds. It's not just a bunch of engineers solving an engineering problem, but we have people coming from social science, even arts and humanities, and engineers working together. And the impact here is really creating a process for students. By the time they finish this program, which ends typically for us in the spring, they could be ready to apply for internship that might be offered by these partners, or be a way to boost their resume as they're going forward with this program. So we've run this program for several years. We've ourselves tested different hypotheses, different format. We always go back to our users and understand whether this was effective, not only the student themselves as participants, but also the challenge partners. Last year, we had a significant amount of uptake in applications, and we're definitely looking forward for more of this type of program next year. Just from a context, because we're on a quarter system, this program begins in a will. The application process is in the fall, and during the fall application, students elect one particular challenge or more than one. Then there is a review process, and then from there we select a number of students that will be scheduled for interviews by a panel, and based on that, the panel will pick the top candidate that will be formed into a team. And so that usually happens in the fall. There's an onboarding process, but the actual challenge begins in the winter quarter. So as soon as the first week of winter quarter, and it runs until the spring quarter with a demo day at the end. Next slide, please. This next program that we also ran 2 years in a row, which was a unique focus here, we were looking at how to empower students around leadership skills. Again, focusing not only on how to acquire those leadership skills, but also how to apply it to a real life of entrepreneurial experiences. There was a significant goal here. We were giving a priority to non-binary women X identifying Latinx students. So that was a by design. That's what we were focusing on, this particular group on campus. The goal here was to really give them an experience where they were going to be able to immerse themselves in identifying who they are, but how they fit in with society. We did this in conjunction with a partner called La Jolla Playhouse. So a lot of these this was a year-long program, by the way. So this year-long program involved several steps. The initial part of the program in the fall was all about using theater as the vehicle to convey this connection as your own identity as yourself and who you are and your origins, but also how do you fit in the existing society as a whole. So there's a lot of role play, a lot of improv. It was a really exciting way to, again, use a very different approach to engage these sometimes difficult conversations that we need to have. So that was one element of the program. The other element of the program was all focused around learning these leadership skills, but also applying it into the context of a mini practicum, which was focused mostly in a nonprofit, and we were working specifically with the local startup ecosystems. We worked with Startup San Diego. They had a chance to really apply what they learned into a project. And then we matched students in the summer with local startups. So it was really kind of learning about who you are as an individual person and how you connect with your own community and as a whole to the entire system and society. How do you learn about leadership and how to apply that with the context of a practicum? And then you really bring it all together by, I've done a practicum in a safe environment within the school system, and then I'm going to actually engage myself over a summer internship with a particular company. And we also actually pair the student with specific coach. So there was a coach, it was a one-on-one during the entire duration of the program where they could talk about their own journey as students, but also we were using the coach as a role model, right? Showing to them that there are folks in a community that have successfully gone through a lot of these steps and have been able to build amazing businesses. So hopefully use it as an inspiration for the student to realize that I could be dreaming of anything, but also potentially even change what I was intended to do on campus when I first came on. And it actually happened to some students who had such an awakening moment with this experience that they've actually changed the directions of what they were studying. And then we had a number of students that have gone through the program that end up with actual internship and actual jobs at the end. So we ran this twice, 2 academic years. We've had good feedback. I think we were looking to potentially bring back this program in a different format with a broader appeal to a broader, larger population on campus, maybe potentially shorter, but still with the context of having a mini practicum with a summer internship at the end, because that's sort of where we've received the most feedback. So that's another way for us to engage diverse students on campus. Next slide, please. So this is another really amazing program that is also within the OIC umbrella as a program. It's called the Maverick Studio. This is a state-of-the-art XR studio. We also do VR in there. What the purpose of it here is not teaching students on how to use these amazing tools, but how to obviously use the tool, but then create something that could relate to their own personal goals, right? So they're learning how to create stories using XR and VR tools, how to create immersive stories that could engage their own interest, right? So we had, for example, a student who came from Scripps Institute of Oceanography. She had a passion for obviously anything marine biology, and all she created is basically you as a diver, as you immerse into this VR headset, her world was basically under the sea, and she designed this amazing well that would just pass by as if you were a diver looking up towards the surface. So again, here they're empowering students to give them access to these amazing tools, but also give them enhanced opportunities to create these immersive experiences themselves. As I mentioned, around storytelling, the user design, a lot of 3D modeling, a lot of animation. So all those tools that are extremely valuable out there that was going to have a higher uptake moving forward. And it's really giving the chance for students that normally could potentially be exposed to these tools in some of the class settings, but this is a really open access to anyone. The studio opened in the fall 2023. It has a huge interest, where it's so many more than what they could really offer. But they are running basically every quarter a cohort with the goal that they will potentially use those skill set and potentially prepare them to enter the marketplace with those skill sets, or potentially do something on their own as freelancers. Or in some cases, we've had students that have gone through the Maverick Studio, created something really amazing, and then came back and try to bring it to the next program I'm going to talk about in a bit, the LaunchPad program that we have. So they had actually an ideation of an idea that could be the foundation for a business. Next slide, please. So the targeted campus outreach. So what we do on an ongoing basis is very important for us, that we work with a number of different partners. So we could not do any of these outreach, especially to diverse communities on campus, if we were not working with different groups. So the Office of Academic Support and Instructional Services, OASIS, we've been collaborating with them the second year to share basically entrepreneurial opportunities with them. So it's really for us try to bring what we have to them in the context of their community and see how we can engage them, but also how we can listen of their needs that they may have. We also work with the transfer student success, host office hours in the Triton Transfer Hub, and try to bring the basement to transfer students. So this again a way for us to create those connections. We work with academic advisors. We have extensive marketing materials that we share at the start of each quarters, and we try to make sure that they're aware of the resources that we have, because they're the closest connected to students, and sometimes students are coming with this idea of, well, I like to learn about entrepreneurship, or I like to join a team where I could potentially use my skill set. So that's another way. We also have a number of diversity centers on campus. We are trying to really connect with all of them as needed and as fitted based on their needs and our need. But there's an effort to really go out and understand what these partners need. An example of that is what my colleague Christine said earlier about the Women's Center, promoting the upcoming founder fireside panels. We're always working for ways not only to bring people in our amazing space, and as Yves said earlier, this amazing design innovation building, but we also try to bring entrepreneurship and ideation models and resources to them, right? So we also go to other parts of the campus to create those connections. The alums are another great source of knowledge. As mentioned before, not only they're a source for some of our panel discussions that we have, we always want to go back to those that have interesting stories and potentially careers once they graduated that could become these role models, these very inspirations for students to hear from other students that have gone through their same path. And we also actually have some of them come back and become mentors. And I didn't mention much about it, but the mentorship is essential to everything that we do, especially when it comes to the Blackstone LaunchPad element. And we also work with the Idea Council. The Idea Council is a committee of campus innovation leaders. So as you've heard earlier, UCSD has a pretty extensive web of entrepreneurial resources and centers. And the idea here is to have regular interaction with these groups to exchange ideas, share potential resources, and potentially market upcoming opportunities together. Next slide, please. So we also work with student organizations. So there are a lot of student organizations. I'm sure it's the same in your own campus. So we always are looking for the ones that relates to what we do or could have an ideal connection. So in the past, we worked with Women in Coding, collaborating again on this idea of a panel discussion. So get them involved, get them to actively promote and engage their partners. We also, as I mentioned before, work with the Women's Network, and we're continuously looking for more ways to connect with them and collaborate. And then we have a newer student organization called the Student Entrepreneur Network, and they're helping us promote some of our events that we run, but also we have co-hosted some events together as well. And there are others that we continuously are searching. So what we're doing as a group is we're continuously connecting with these different student organization club and see where we could be a direct help. Last week, I just happened to be at the Neurotech Club, and I've learned about their process and what they're working on. Additional opportunities that we offer for students and the larger population is that we have a recruitment wall. This is actually a physical place where you could post current openings that are from basement startups. And we are also soon to be released a digital version of this model. But again, as Christine mentioned, we have this recruitment fair. This is a great way for some of the ventures to seek out potential help. This is another way in between those recruitment fair where they could just post positions and have it either physically in their space and soon to be on a digital version as well. We also have open access. So our space is always accessible to all students the entire academic year, but we have specific open access hours where we have our space open. That's usually during the day, Monday to Friday, from 1 to 5 p.m. And they can not only come out and check out the space, but also connect with the other ventures that we have. So right now in the Blackstone LaunchPad program, we have 26 teams. And these teams are at different stage and they're all working on different things. So we have teams working on things like inventing the future track suit to people working on blockchain solutions for commodity prices in Africa, to people working on transportation system for bikes, to people working on medical device for newborn. So it's really spanned the gimmick across many different areas. But the open access hours is really this moment for students to potentially interact with them. And we also do extended open access hours that we do when where we're located on campus. It's a newer part of the campus where there's been new construction in the last 2 years. And we have the farmer market that has happened really close to us. And we are trying to host a number of social activities to leverage that foot traffic and create connections with students that are normally not coming by this part of the campus. For those of you that are not familiar with UCSD, it's a very, very wide campus. There's a lot of different sections on it. So it's always important for us to create visibility and engagement. So I think we'll stop there and answer any questions you may have.
So we can start off. I see one question from Brandon asked about open access hours and what organization is that. So to clarify, what we call open access hours is when we literally open the front door to the basement, prop the door open, and we let folks know, come on by, come check out our space, use it to study, use it to work on a collaborative project. It's just to literally open our doors to invite our students into our physical space. So that's what we mean by open access hours.
And while we wait for the other, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question. I don't know if I need to type it as well. I'm looking at David to see if there's, do we need to do this using the interactive method?
No, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay, very good, very good. So I'm curious, thank you both for, it looks like a lot of great programming, and it's also very interesting to see your partnerships, because I think that is really key to the success. A lot of us in the NNCI community, we work in a relatively niche sort of area. We're really focused on a particular type of nano-enabled flavor of entrepreneurship. Can you comment a little bit about where a lot of your students come from in terms of their academic disciplines? Do you see certain disciplines that show up more, or technology domains where you see large portions of students coming into your programs?
That's a great question. I could start, Christine, if you want me. I think in the majority, I think a lot of it comes from the STEM, engineering kind of heavy. But we've seen changes in when we have students coming from more the social science area. So it's kind of a mix. And that really, I think, because of mostly when it comes from engineering, because there's a lot of potential interest, but also because there's some potential classes or opportunities to do more of that kind of capstone project that ends up with a physical product. But I think we're also seeing a shift there where it's becoming more open across different areas of campus. So I think we're hoping to reach out a broader audience over time, but I think it's still very much engineering focused, STEM kind of related. In the I4X program, we're trying to really change that by having people apply for a challenge. So here is like we propose a challenge to them, or something that they could solve for a client, and we purposely mix people with different backgrounds, which is interesting because it's forcing them to rethink how they even communicate with one another, right? If you're communicating to a non-engineer, it's very different than if you're communicating with someone who has a similar school of thought. So I think that's where we are. There is a strong interest in her mind right now to be able to reach out more to the arts and humanities, because we see a lot of folks that are coming from there. That part of it is also the semantic over the term entrepreneurship. I think people perceive it as it's a business, and we get it, right? The entrepreneur has this implication, but we're also trying to make them realize that anyone can master this skill set, even if you're not going to be an entrepreneur, right? So part of it is some interaction that we may have is they may attend one of a workshop and they may never start a business whatsoever, but they're still going to be exposed to this space. I don't know if Christine, you want to add to it a little bit.
And just also adding on to that too, we are really honing this idea that everyone's an entrepreneur. So even if you don't plan on creating your own business, there's a lot of entrepreneurial skills such as communication, storytelling that are applicable to anyone once they graduate from here. So we really try to emphasize the fact that if you aren't interested in the traditional entrepreneurial route, there are definitely benefits that can help you, apply to grad school, interview for grad school, or apply for a job, or just learn how to work with other people on a collaborative project, because that's essentially the workforce skill sets that we're noticing that folks are lacking, that we're hoping to fine tune to make them more prepared for the job industry, for the employment.
And if I may add to that,
Okay, go ahead, Sean.
sorry, I was going to add one more thing. One thing that we also see, so a Blackstone LaunchPad program, which is really a traditional incubator, right? So we have teams that are applying for this and they're with us for an entire year. It's an entire journey. They're getting one-on-one mentorship. They're getting access to resources, mostly the Lean Startup toolkit that we have. They have access to opportunities to pitch. They have access to pitch for larger competition and so on. But we're not essentially in the business of creating ventures, right? So yes, we're excited when ventures come out. Where I'm always, and Christine could be the same, we're highly supportive of the students. They're like putting their heart, their energy, and they're really getting something where there's traction. And then they fit into other programs on campus. I'm happy to expand on that, what that means. But I think the more rewarding aspect for us is focusing on the workforce development, where we're focusing on giving students skill set that would be attractive to their future career, as Christine mentioned. Because a lot of time, any companies, by the time they graduate, they're looking for the skill set that are pretty much the entrepreneurship mindset that we refer to, that are essential. And some might start with working with a small or large company, but then eventually 2-3 years later, they start their own company. So we had an impact on their journey at one point. So that's sort of what we want to focus on.
Yeah, if I can piggyback on this, I think the important is to have students explore their innovation mindset, because companies want to hire innovators today. It's not just enough to do your job and be told what to do, right? So even if you're not going to start up a company, maybe you can understand better the startup company you're going into, or even if it's a large company, you will be better equipped to perform your career, because if you have this innovation mindset.
You're right. And I think we often refer to this concept that came from one of our colleagues. I really like the way he pictures this. So we're not here to train navigators, right? We're not here to tell students, well, here's how you do a market analysis. Here's how you do a pitch. We certainly give them those technical skills, and that's great. But we try to teach them to be explorers, right? So once they have all those skill sets of identifying, like how to have a critical mindset around problem solving, then that becomes very attractive in potentially their future careers as an entrepreneur on their own, or just to what you say, Yves, right? When they're joining a company, they have that mindset around having this visionary mindset and this curiosity, right? Because at the end of the day, it's being curious about and imagining a future that doesn't exist. And that's sort of what we're hoping to achieve through our programs and engagement and community building.
I like that focus on the earlier stages of what we're trying to do with entrepreneurs in terms of, I know folks always like to look at metrics, like how are you measuring the success of your program, and startups and investment money and patent disclosures and all that. Those are easy numbers to grab, and they're easy numbers to, or they're numbers that are really challenging when you're at this early stage of teaching entrepreneurship to students. What are there types of metrics that you folks look at that you can share with administration when you're, looking for the indicators of success in your program? Is it typically the numbers of students who are applying, and is that sufficient on your end?
That's a great question, Matt. I think it's a combination of a few things, right? So there are like the hard metrics, as you mentioned, right? So we are evaluated on the idea of how many ventures we're creating or help create, how many patents are filed or provisional patents, those numbers, how many employees hire, how much funding they might be able to get from friends and family, and maybe follow-on investments from there. But we also looking at things like at a higher level from how many students we serve, right? So for us, serve is a definition where they've attended a workshop and engaged with some of our potentially resources that we have, right? So that, because from the chancellor's perspective is, in his mind, everyone on campus at some point should at least be exposed one time to this entrepreneurial mindset. So it could be through competitions, like what Christine said earlier, this ideation workshop that we did, that maybe that's the only time we really engage them, and that's fine. It could be a design competition. It could be actually more defined application to one of a Blackstone LaunchPad or the Innovating 4X, or it could be just using any of the online resources, right? So the matrix around student serve is really essential. And then I think the other aspect is more around who we serve, right? So understanding the demographic, and that's kind of the purpose of this discussion today, is are we having an impact to the right people? It goes back to my point earlier. Yes, we're very effective in attracting certain types of population on campus, but we also ask the question is where we're not. And I think that's where the diversity metric is also helpful. The other one that is really key to this group and OIC in general is, how do we inspire not only diverse entrepreneurs, but also women founders, right? A lot of times we run in a situation where there are amazing ideas brought to us every day. I mean, I'm always stunned by the quality of where these ideas come from. But how do we empower women to take more of a leadership role in the venture versus a secondary role in some instances? So that's part of, and that goes back to this idea of role models, bring back what Christine said earlier about, we have amazing alums. They have an amazing track record. If they see that this is a possible path, that really inspire them to do the same thing. So it's actually a combination of all this. So there's these hard kind of quantitative metrics, but there's a bunch of qualitative metrics that are very essential to us. Because I think the numbers are great, but the stories are more powerful, right? We all remember stories better than we remember numbers. So what we also have been doing for the last 2 years or so is try to do a better job telling the story about who are these people in our programs. What are they doing? What are they creating? And so we do this in many different ways because, our audience is the students to begin with, the student population. So we've been doing a lot of articles where we feature longer stories, where we do this to the OIC blog. We do shorter stories that are more articles that could be published on LinkedIn. We do shorter posts, sometimes just about, hey, this startup did this, they won this competition, or they were recognized for XYZ. And then we also start using more and more video, right? We have onboarded about more than a year now, a videographer, and we're trying to take advantage of telling story that way, right? Because we realize the audience respond better to these type of tools. And we continuously try to really explore new tools where we use things like, Discord, and we've tried different platforms. But what we realize at the end of the day, how we reach these students, if you talk about student population only, I think the number one is Instagram. And then after that comes second, it's LinkedIn, because it's more like a professional network. And then we use video as another platform. But this is always the storytelling aspect and collecting those impact stories. I think that's what resonates best when we tell a story, is when we're meeting with the chancellor or the chancellor's staff or leadership committee, they gravitate around these stories, right? And we often try to not tell the story yourself. We can have someone else, like the student, tell the story themselves of what they've gone through. So I don't know if that helps answer your question, but
it's very helpful. Yes, thank you. And I can sit here and ask you questions all day. I have one more, unless I want to make sure that there's no one online or Yves or David don't have other questions. I'm not seeing.
Go ahead.
Oh, so my question for you is, maybe it's a two-part question, and I'm curious to hear both yours and Christine and Yves' perspectives on it. Did your program start out with engagement of diverse groups at a level that you were happy with or surprised by, or has it evolved to become more diverse and inclusive? And so that's kind of the first part of the question. The second part is, what do we do badly when when you look at us across the NNCI, and I don't know how much Yves has shared with you on what we're 16 sites across the United States. Not all of us are, we have the resources to reach out to groups that don't traditionally participate in our programs. But are there some big no-nos that maybe you have seen as you've seen folks try to improve the diversity of their program? So those are the two parts. Just to recap: one, how has it evolved for you folks? And two, what are some big no-nos that you would suggest we steer away from? Or if you see some positives, if you want to put a more positive spin on it, what are the things we should be emphasizing more of?
That's great. Christine, you want to start, or where I start?
Yeah, I could start us off. So I've been at the basement, gosh, for maybe 5 years or so. So when I first came on board, well, to give a little context, I'm a UCSD alum. I've worked at the university at that time for 10 years. I had never heard of the basement, which was interesting because I was applying for a job for a place I never heard of, but it sounded amazing. So I knew that was problem one. How do we get folks to know about what the basement is? At that time, it was very heavily engineering, very heavily male-dominated space. Over time, it took a lot of trust and a lot of community building to break down those barriers. It took changing the language, being more inclusive of how we marketed, being more mindful of who we put on a flyer, be mindful of what type of speaker we brought in. So it took a lot of small steps to make this community what it is today. What the biggest selling point has been with working with students is students are going to be your best advocates. We can rave on and on and on about how great we are, but students don't want to listen to us. They want to hear from their friends. Like when I was an academic advisor, students trusted what they learned on Reddit more than what they would hear from their advisors. Like students want to hear from their peers. So what we've done over time is not only build a community, but like a genuine community where students genuinely valued their time here. We give them the resources. And I think the biggest thing is at institutions, students always feel as they're not being heard. Like you'll have office hours, people feel as though you share with them the grievances. At the end of the day, it's like, okay, I met with you, that's it. But I want to say that we're very proud that we function like a startup. The students are our customers. We take the feedback they give us and we actually implement change. And we get their buy-in by being part of the advocacy as well. Like help us do things like the recruitment fair. That started because students told us, I need help. What do I do? And we sat down in a room. I remember we sat down, we talked about it, like, let's do this. So we got their buy-in because we're addressing a need they had. They helped us, and then we helped grow to what it is now. So I think just being really open to their feedback has been helpful, and just knowing that student trends change. Jack mentioned Instagram is our #1 platform right now. 3 years ago, it was Facebook. Students nowadays don't even know how to use Facebook. So just being open and willing to constantly change, knowing that the trends are going to change, the student needs are going to change. And then I think just implementing new programs like Innovating for X has really been helpful too, because there's this stigma where like, I don't have any good ideas, but is entrepreneurship even for me? But if I can just see from students that Innovating for X, it's like, well, I can help. I can work on a project. I can be creative. Like these are things that, yes, I identify with that. And they're still learning the core of entrepreneurship, but just through a different lens. So that's my long-winded answer to hopefully address both of your questions.
I think that was wonderful. And I think that's you gave that answer from very clear experience. You could just see. Thank you very much. That was great.
Yeah, and I would add to what Christine said. I think this whole idea, I mean, it's funny, we always make this joke. We're teaching students about lean startup, and I'm sure you all know this, but this whole aspect of understanding your problem, understanding your users, doing this whole stakeholder analysis. we do it all the time. I mean, listening to what works, and we often ask them, be frank with us. If this was a terrible idea, we won't do it again, right? So I think being okay to give the permission to criticize the delivery of things in a constructive way, obviously, but also invite them to suggest things like Christine said, right? Because I think there's things that sometimes we don't see it, they see it from a different perspective. And I think also looking at the trends, I mean, this whole idea of what Christine said, trends evolve. And the other thing too is being mindful of who you try to target, right? So I think going back to this conversation around diverse population, we try to also make an honest effort to bring diverse speakers, right? That could identify with these students, right? Because I think it's important also, they need to recognize that they could be a role model for them, but if that person doesn't connect at that level for them, it's not going to have the same impact versus someone who's coming from a similar cultural or ethnic background that could create that connection or story around this. And I think I want to emphasize this idea of they don't want to listen to us per se saying something. They like to hear from others. I mean, I think that voice should come from them because they know how to. We do this all the time. We create content and they tell us if this is really going to be impactful for who we want to reach. So it's kind of having this humility that we might be older perhaps, but we don't have all the answers for sure. So, and we don't. I mean, I've always tell my students, I have, as much as I'm going to try to share my passion and my experience, I'm going to learn from you as much, right? There's something that I walk away that I didn't know, and now it's something I could potentially use forward to something else. So it's really this idea of reciprocity is really important too.
Excellent. Yves, anything to add? A final word? We've got 2 minutes here and
No, very well said. You know, this was a fantastic presentation. I learned also. And yeah, I mean, I think that also communication is very important among the groups, right? Like you were talking about, you know, engineering, nano, but at some point what happens is that nanotechnology is going to integrate to several projects that may not start with nanotechnology at all, right? So I see UCSD as being an extremely large pool of you know, different background, different knowledge, and the solutions that we're going to bring to the future of society is going to be convergence, and nanotechnology will play a role in some of these projects that Christine and Jacques are fostering right now.
I think that's a great place to end it. Thank you all. Really appreciate your time. And David, we'll turn it over to you to take us home.
Just a final thank you from me as well to Yves, Matt, Jacques, and Christine, and of course our attendees. And hopefully we'll see you at a future NNCI webinar. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, David.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Matthew. Thank you, Yves.